We were working on Roas and Olad as it relates to Bein Adam L'Chavero, and I hope everyone saw many ways. I'll give a few examples. It could be some of these I shared before, but nothing wrong with sharing them again if I did, and that's good. So you don't plan well and you come late. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest Roas and Olads that a person doesn't plan his schedule well and doesn't really think about it. Exactly where I was an OLED. I don't realize that X shower is going to take me 20 minutes. Putting on my clothes is going to take me 5 minutes. Going to the bathroom take me 5 minutes. Turning off the lights is going to take me 3 minutes, etc. And then I realize the car, and you end up coming late. Now, how does that relate to Ben Chavero? You have to know that we all have to know that coming late is sometimes offensive to people, and sometimes a lot worse than offensive because you're wasting people's time. Um, I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this, but I'll just share a sharp story, which I need chizik in also, and I'm just sharing it as something to share, not as something that I'm good at. But Reb Shlomo Zalman, we always imagine the Gedolim, they're like always nice and pleasant and sweet. No. Reb Shlomo Zalman is reported that one time to his driver, I don't remember the exact language, it's in the Sefer Alehu Lo Yibol, which is an interesting book of someone who was Mishamish from Shlomo Zalman. Va'alehu lo yibol is the name of the sefer. And he writes there that Shlomo Zalman's driver came 10 minutes late once, and he said to him, "You stole 10 minutes of my life," which is not something you want Shlomo Zalman to say to you, but that is what he said. So, anyways, or a lot of things, you could come late and the whole gamut of things. That is part of Ben Chavero. So there, your lack of being Rosh and Olad damages the Ben Chavero. You aren't careful what you say. That's a great one. I'm not Rosh and Olad. Oh, if I say this, it's going to lead to that, and etc. Someone's going to get offended eventually, right? So it's not. I would never do something offensive, but since you didn't see what could come out of it, you weren't Rosh and Olad. I didn't see what was born from the comment. It was just an innocent comment. It wasn't an innocent comment. I didn't mean anything. You didn't mean anything, but it caused damage. You don't think about how something's going to unplay and really affect people. I'll give a great example. You plan a vacation for the family, and some of the people in your family are istinuses. That means they're istinuses. They really don't like dirty places. So I wasn't so Roas and Olad that the place wouldn't be clean, but now we get to the vacation, they're upset, or there's no food. They're upset. So I wanted to give my family a nice vacation, my wife a nice vacation, my husband something, but I wasn't Roas and Olad, so it didn't come out well. So again, here's the point, right? None of these things there we wouldn't call them that anybody's being nasty, rude, purposely thoughtless, all the things that we often equate with more obvious Benam Chavero deficiencies. But at the end of the day, our lack of being Roas and Olad will lead us to that. Okay, we're going to get back to that, but I want to interject something which is very nogea to this sugya and in general, I think important to hear. What, and this is going to sound like left field, what are Rabbeim for? So I think to a large extent, Rabbeim, teachers, guides, mentors, set up a model for us and learning a model for us in Avodas Hashem. And that is so necessary, and one can often tell the difference between those who had live models in Avodas Hashem and learning, and those who didn't, who just figured it out on their own. Not that you can't get anywhere, of course you can, and not that there weren't Gedolim who didn't, but for most of us, without our dear Rabbeim to guide us and set down the boundaries and highlight things and etc., so we'd be kind of lost. But you need to go further than that, and you need to keep developing yourself and find your way in Avodas Hashem together with the models you have from your Rabbeim, your yeshivas. We can only imagine how close Avram and Yitzchak were. We don't think of them usually. I think usually it's like a father and a son. But hey, this was Yitzchak's son, and this was Yitzchak's father, and this was Avram's son. We often think about them so separate. This Avram is this Mida, and Yitzchak is that Mida, but they were father and son. And we can only imagine how much Yitzchak was machshiv Avram, and how much Avram was machshiv Yitzchak. It's in l'shar vein latar. I think it's not really feasible for us to understand really what was going on there, and yet understand they were totally different, which is really beautiful. And Yaakov was something different altogether. On top of that, we talk about Avram being this Mida, that Mida. So here you were. Yitzchak was certainly a Talmud of Avram, and yet he was very, very different. I'll give some current examples. Shlomo Zalman, we mentioned before, had a son He had a few illustrious sons, but the most illustrious of his sons was Shmuel Orbach. The book came out about him one time, and I'm not getting into the contours of this, but everybody knows that when Rav Shach split off from Degel Torah, split off from Aguda, which was an incredible move, incredibly impactful. It made a big machlokes, and he was the Gadol Hador, and he could do it, and for whatever cheshbon and he had that he thought to do it. But everybody knows the one like bona fide, General Gadol that was part of the Lithuanian world who avoided the whole thing was Reb Shlomo Zalman. He wondrously somehow walked between the raindrops, etc., and stayed out of it. And then Reb Shmuel really actually broke off from Degel Torah. So you see two sons, a father and a son, and Reb Shlomo Zalman, Reb Shmuel would always sign his name, B'ni Ben, Gaon Yisrael, the genius of Yisrael, Reb Shlomo Zalman. Obviously, he was extremely machshav of his father, no doubt about it. But here he was; he went in a totally, totally different way of his father. Something incredible. Bells. Many people don't realize this. When we look at Bell's Hasidus today, is much more of a middle of the road. They're definitely Haredi, right? But you definitely call them ultra orthodox. They're not modern, but they're definitely more middle of the road as Hasidus go than Satmar or that. But my understanding that I heard once, and I've read it since, is that in Europe, Belz was considered like a Kanoim. They were like zealots. And then Rav Aaron Belzer, who certainly was built on his great fathers and grandfathers, and all the Rebbes of Belz, to my knowledge, were great, great, great men. But he like switched it. He switched it, especially when he got to Eretz Yisrael. Like he became much more encompassing, etc. Than it was more less zealot. So you have that, right? Why am I saying that? Why am I saying all this? It's interesting to hear once in a while, but the reason I'm saying is like this. Some of the main things I got out of Leichter was the constant search for how to get at things. He's always working at how to like break things down and how to do it differently and how do we get to tshuva and how do we get this, how do we get to that, and reflecting and seeing how those things are working, like that whole don't just do this, repeat, etc. Like, and being fresh and creative and especially reflective, like very, very reflective. Like I found this about myself. I saw this new aspect. He's amazing. I mean, I consider, as everybody here knows, I consider Lecter and his koch like a Chad B'dar, one in the generation almost. And not that I can do any of those things, but that's definitely what he meant to me. One thing I didn't get out of him, which he didn't really emphasize much as I understood him and as I heard him, I can only talk about what I saw, wasn't this idea of like the power of habit and repetition and just doing things a lot, like more simplistic, which other words, Weinberg would emphasize much more, just do this, again, again, and again, and again, and again, you get somewhere. The Rambam has that idea, of course. And I think the reason I'm sharing that is just, I think that comes up a lot over here. And, part for me is to learn, at least in the little I can understand about things, is to take what I saw a lot from Rav Leichter and to also realize, like, sometimes you do need, in my humble opinion, you do need more just like repeat, cycle, repeat, cycle, repeat, cycle, repeat, 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 make a habit, the power of habits, habitual thinking, atomic habits. Habits are very, very, very powerful in Avodas Hashem. He has Torah about these things. I'm not saying, but I'm talking about like the crux of what I heard. What I heard, what he represented to me, what I was hearing from him wasn't that. And now we're going to keep doing above the above. I'm not sure how much further we're going to work on Roas and Olad, but I do want to say my sense, and I've shared this a little bit. I want to say it more clear and exact and specific, and Rachel Bitcha Ketana, as we say this week's parsha, Rachel Bitcha Ketana, I think, right? That this sugi especially, I think a lot is just getting used to it. It's like a way of looking at things to be Roas and Olad. I don't know if it's philosophy, right? Deep lumdus to it. I'm sure there is depth to it, and there's more, and we're gonna keep going a few more weeks and try to uncover it, as we will today. But it's kind of like, I think if you ask me today, like brass tacks, Rabbi, how do you get to be Roas and Olad? I think you have to see it's valuable. You have to believe in it, and you have to like really just like do it. Train yourself to do it a lot because it has become like a way of thinking. You can approach your schedule and what you're doing as a Roas and Olad. You're learning as a Roas and Olad. Or you cannot. It's not. It's not that complicated. I don't think. Whereas a lot of things are complicated. I don't see this sugi as Aaron. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not seeing this sugi as like super complicated. It feels a very complicated sugi. A lot of there's this, there's that, there's menuchas and nefesh, and there's calm and getting on time and coming and Sheva Chodah. There's a lot of parts to it. Here, I think it's kind of like this is part of Chacham. Again, there's always deeper ways to go at things, but I'm talking about the sugyas. We can see it. A lot of it to me just seems like, hey, it is important to be Rosh and Olad. I have to get myself used to doing this. I have to do it, and I have to keep thinking to myself, what's going to come out? What 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 is going to result from this? And just get used to thinking more. You're constantly thinking about being a Rosh and Olad, and you're constantly being Rosh and Olad. I am being Rosh and Olad right now, right? I'm having a conversation. What's the next step? What's going to be with this person? I am planning the vacation for my kids. What is the Rosh and Olad? I'm thinking about my chavrusa situation. I'm thinking about who we should have for Shabbos. I'm thinking how to talk to my wife about this issue. I want to be Rosh and Olad. Okay. So today's task, friends, I want to I didn't want to say that, and everybody understands now I said that Hakdama because I feel like me with the life there, I gained so much from him. And for sure, the general approach I can give over is things I learned from him. I wouldn't say it's not like his approach, but as you grow, you add and subtract things which for your stockless kashem parts of fame and domas kaptatotem. It's just like our faces are all different, so to our ideas are different. It's built like that. And Tzimar has a big pamphlet about that recently. People see things differently, and you have to keep growing and see how you different, and not be bound by Rabbeim. Again, a big bottle, a big model, and a big boundary and a guideline, and Rabbanim are and communities are. But then the Oved Hashem Amiti, or someone who tries to be a little bit, has to go and think, okay, but now where do I go with all this? What's my specific derech? And it can't be I'm just doing, what everybody else does because they're doing it. I have to find, or even because my Rabbeim do it much better, but I have to find my way in things and my truth. It's interesting. Okay, so I wanted to share one more area where Tzimar points out it, which is not for our avoda, just to open up the minds about this topic. I think it's a really good one. And then we're going to share what the area I want to work on a little bit, which I think will be really nice. So here in his 15th article, he says, when a person, this is more for men than women, but it could be relevant to women also, but definitely for men. When a person has to stop, let's just explain the general guidelines in learning. If you're learning and a mitzvah which can be done by someone else comes up, you don't have to stop. If it can be done by someone else, you don't stop learning. If it cannot, NOT be done by someone else, you do stop learning, right? Even though Talmud Torah can cool, okay, we're not getting into the lumdus, how it is and why it is, but those are the rules, right? Now, so now, but it's not always that simple. And here's the point, right? If something's going to make a dramatic effect to your learning, the rules can change. Like the Rambam famously says, "V'yachzer l'talmudo," and you go back to your Talmud, and the people explain that diak, why the Rambam say that. Stop, you're going to go back. When you finish, go back. Question is, of course, when you finish, go back. So the way it's explained is the Rambam is putting a condition in. You have to stop your learning in a situation when you'll be able to go back. But if I'm going to do this mitzvah, and because my involvement in this mitzvah, I won't be able to go back, I won't stop my learning, right? So I'm going to read the way Rabbi Schoonmaker says. He doesn't necessarily quote the Rambam, but I think that's where he's basically coming on. He says, when a person stops learning, this is the mitzvah of Rosh and Olad. You have to think about all the things that are going to come out from this hefsek. Tahainu sharbei pamim hatotzot shel bitul Torah bekamud o be'echud sheyachol lo mizeh la'atzmo o la'acher mishanim halacha shel hafsak b'amtzal limud l'mitzvah she'ef shel asay de'acher. Right? He says sometimes, right? I have to be. Oh, here I am. I just read the Rambam simply, and I'm learning. And there's a mitzvah she'ef shel asay de'acher. Someone calls me and says, "Do this. Come home. Go do this, etc." Go. No, not necessarily. You have to know what, again, we're not posing the question now and ask a Rav when the situation comes up, but if I go to this Levaya, it will mean that I will be knocked out for 3 days. But my presence has to be there because, wait, maybe the halacha is different in that situation. But here's the point, friends. If I don't know how to be Rosh Hanolad, then I don't know how to judge it. I don't know how to ask the Shaila. Right? A simple situation. They need me at this wedding. They need me at this levaya. They need me at this fundraising campaign. They need me at this communal event. They need me at this minyan. Okay, good. So simply, if it's impossible for someone else to do it, right? How we figure that out, then you got to go. But there are conditions. So now we're not passing the conditions again, but I'm saying that if you don't even know how to think about what's going to happen, so then you can't ask the Shaila. I don't even know I don't even know what it's going to be. So I have to think, wait. I'm going to go to this thing in Tel Aviv, and it's going to take 3 hours, it's going to be hot, and the thesis isn't going to be so great, and it's going to throw off my Kedusha, and it's going to throw off I'm going to be so tired and things like that. So I did the mitzvah for 3 hours. I'm going to get back, and then I'm going to be off for another 2 days. Wait, if that's the situation, maybe you don't have to go. That's corrupt. But you have to be Roas and Nolad to understand the situation. So I wanted to add that. I thought it was a good Tosefus and a perfect example of Roas and Nolad. And that would be an example where someone just goes, but Tmimus, I'm just learning the Rambam. The Rambam says like this, you got to go. Whoa. Go in this situation, do Kira. What's it going to do if the person's situation what's going to, if the person's standing on the streets of Tel Aviv or a college campus, what's going to go to, how's it going to affect this whole Ruchnius? It could be, he'll never get back to learning. Or maybe he will. You have to know what's the Roas and Nolad. Person has to know the Roas and Nolad. Okay, that was for everybody's idea. The area I want to speak of, which I thought was really sweet, I'll read what he says. L'choma sheshayach lemile. This is 18th article. Everything that's shayach lemile ratzon avinu shebashamayim leo tamid b'simcha. Lachnis simcha tmidis b'chol habayis b'chol hasviva. Right. So a person has to be b'simcha, and he has to make his house happy, and has to make his sviva happy. Okay, that's the given. In that, yesh musag v'metzias v'avodah shel roas and olad. What's going to happen if most of us, I think, we all understand, definitely the married men, and I think the married women. I don't know how many women are listening to this right now, but I think we understand that when we come in with a sour face, it affects our spouse. Yeah? That's definitely one of the things we give over in Shalom Bayis classes. And it affects our kids. So, but I don't know if we're Roas and Nolad. That basic point we have to be after Roas and Nolad, which is not just making it to binary yes, no, will I be happy when I come home? To understand that if I'm not happy, it's going to affect my kids. Now, I want to say something deeper, and this is a big one, and it's a really big one, and it's important to think about this. And different people are different. And if you're less given over to Simcha, it's fine, but it's time to be happier because it will affect your kids long term. I see certain families. I try not to be too critical, but I also have to be a little critical, and it's good for the Vaad and things to see. Like you see certain people, like the whole family's not smiling, but then you see the parents aren't smiling, the kids aren't smiling, but people need happiness today. I mean, there's so much anxiety. Please understand what your children, what your students, what your sphere is dealing with. Anxiety levels that they're dealing with is so different than it was once upon a time. It used to be people live normally. Now you turn on the news and everything's depressing. You read an article, this thing, 100,000 weapons are coming into the Israel. It's insane. And there's wars and anti-Semitism, things like that. You have to be a bastion for those around you, for your spouse, for your children, for your students, of happiness, because the world is very, very anxious and happy. So it's really, really important. And if you don't, it's the news that they hear and the anxiety. You don't know how much anxiety people are feeling. You don't, especially if you're someone who feels less natural anxiety. People are uptight. People are really, really uptight. It's a rachmanis. So here's the point. I'm not trying to give chizik about simcha, but is that understand it's a roas and olad. If I come in sad, it will have a ripple effect on my house. I have to see that, I have to know that. And further, if I come in sad every day, it will have a ripple effect on my grandchildren because my kids are going to be less happy, my wife will be less happy, and my grandchildren will be less happy. That's the Rosh and Olad. I want to produce happy grandchildren. Not because you give them presents on their birthday, because I am making happy kids. I want my kids to want to come to my house. Some of them will be firmer, some of them will not be firmer. But especially the ones who are less firm, I want them to come to my house because my house represents Yiddishkeit to them. I want guys to come back to my yeshiva because yeshiva for them represents seriousness about Yiddishkeit. I don't know what else they're going through. But if the yeshiva is not happy, they're not going to want to be there. It's not rocket science, right? So the Roas and Nolad of Simcha is so wide, but you got to get into that, okay? That's what the Rabbeim is teaching us here, and it's an unbelievable point. I don't. That's again, just taking the sugya into a lot of different places. The joy, being a joyous person, a jolly person, a happy person, a ever-present person has it. And again, you'll say, Rabbi, you're a generally happy guy. I am, but I work on it, and I know it makes a difference. And who cares? What does that have to do with anything? What I am, what I'm not, has nothing to do with you and you. And I have to be happier. And I believe I have challenges also, and we all have challenges. And it's not about that. I'm one of you guys. I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying to make things a little bit better. And I'm telling you, man, woman, if you're unhappy-ish, you have to deal with it. You have to get happy because it's going to have a huge effect all over the place. Ross and Olad. You're not going to see. You don't want to wake up. Whatever is until now, that's past. We're here today. Tavshin Pei Vav. Yeah, and we're working right now. And now it's time to get happier. Put on a smile. Smile is a small curve, which makes a lot of things straight. Get your dopamine levels up a little bit. Listen to some music, whatever it takes. Eat some chocolate. You know, exercise more. Exercise is great, by the way. I read once someone said if psychologists don't want you to realize how much exercise can help you, exercise a little more. And we're not talking about people with clinical depression. Okay, that's not my field, but less than that is my field. Get yourself happy. Get yourself happy for your sake, for your children's sake, for your health, for all those things. You got to be happy, and for the Roas and Nolad. That's the point, because there will be a Nolad from that. It's not. It's you can see that. You can see it in the families. You can see it in the Talmud. You can see it in institutions. You can see it in the wife. People want to be around happier people. Yeah. So that's the Roas and Nolad. So how do we work with this? That's a good question. So I think everybody has to feel this a little bit. Try over the week to find 4 or 5 situations, right? To again, Schoonmaker talks, but you got to live it. You got to find it in your life. Try to find 4 or 5 situations in your life where I walk into the situation happy or unhappy that's going to affect things. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. Just I don't want to, I always want everybody to be in a little bit of a discovery, so I don't want to fill it in more because, as Rabbi Karlinsky says from Piaget, I don't want to steal the experience of you guys finding it. But I'll give you a certain situation. Let's say me, right? I like a lot of things I do. I'm naturally happy. But let's say it's a family event on Hanukkah. Yeah. Oh gosh, Hanukkah, Bittul Torah, party after party. That's what it is. Good. So now that's what I'm feeling inside. Now that's not necessarily a bad feeling because it comes from the fact that I like to learn and who made up all these parties and why is that what Hanukkah became. Okay, I could say a zillion things. But now, Lamaisa, I'm going to the party. My kids and grandchildren will be there. Am I going to be a sourpuss? Am I not going to be a sourpuss? And now, here's the point. What's the Roas Anolad if Saba, Abba, husband comes to the party and is upset? What's the effect going to be on my wife? What's it going to affect me on my kids and my grandchildren? On my brother-in-law? On my sisters-in-law? Sisters-in-law probably don't care, but on my nephews, right? I see my nieces and nephews 4 times a year. So if I come in uptight, how does it affect things? That's a perfect example, right? So it's not someplace that I don't per se want to be, but why do they? Again, I don't want to just make a chizik about being besimcha. I want everybody to see there's a rosh and nolad in that. If I come in happy, what's the effect on the party if I'm happy? If I come in uptight, what's the effect on the party? The Shabbos meal, the Erev Shabbos, right? You come home, your wife is having a hard time. What's the effect when you come home? What's the rosh and nolad right now? You come into the door and give your wife happiness. You come to the door and feel her tension, just be tense back and upset that she's tense. What's the roas and nola to that? Okay, so I want everybody come, make a list of 4 or 5 things like that you find. That I started everybody off. You got to find your own life. It could be at work. It could be at the meeting. It could be with the individual learning with the kid. It could be there's so many places where we're either coming, bringing joy to the table, or we're bringing despondency, anxiety, and sadness to the table. What do we bring to the table? It is so important that we bring simcha to the table. And are we roas and nolad about our simcha to the table? Let's find 4 or 5 situations of such. And Bezrat Hashem, I think we'll see. We'll probably, I imagine we have 1 or 2 more weeks in roas and nolad, unless I have a breakthrough or something. Then we're going to probably go to Aizehu Chacham Lomi Kol Adam, Bezrat Hashem. But the ikar is we keep working on being a chacham and being roas and nolad. And I wish everybody all the best. We should see the nolad of everybody next week. Shalom, shalom.
Shkoyach.